So I understand that, I mean, of course you feel like you're still going through the journey and learning, but I feel like it will be helpful if you just talk about maybe how does a day look like when you're homeschooling? How does it start? And maybe talk a little bit about the curriculums you have used. Maybe?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that I've understood homeschooling is a call, my planning has morphed.
Okay.
So I start with what is the goal that I want us to learn in the next month, 3 months, year, and big picture.
Okay.
Where is this going?
Yeah.
And I'm learning what's most important. Do we need to stop that?
No, it's
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
What's
we're in their school, so
Okay.
we're the ones who have to adapt. It's okay.
So I'm learning what's most important is character.
Okay.
So the biggest goal, even in everything that I'm selecting, is what kind of person do I want them to be? There's a quote I want, so that we're preparing our children for a future where we will not be present.
That's true.
Okay, it made me very sad.
Yeah.
Because it means there's a life they will have that I will not be there. But then I want them to first know their identity. First is in God. And once that foundation is there, they're so full that then they're able to pour out. And so that means then scripture, like infuse them so much with scripture that it's a natural response. So that means if in a day all we've done is read a Bible verse,
Yeah.
for me it's a win.
Wow.
And to be okay to know that that is cool.
Yeah.
Then once I've equipped them with character, it's a joy of learning. Learning has to be fun. Because I grew up where learning was for an exam, which yes, I know you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then once you're done, forgotten.
I don't even remember what all those things we learned actually. True.
But I have learned men are very interesting with the facts. I call it useless facts that they fill their minds with, but it's taught me an aspect of learning. Men, and I may be generalizing, but
From what you have seen.
Yes. They know a lot about countries, random tiny countries. You're like, why does your head have that information? They know a lot of facts about governments, leaders, anything they're passionate about, whether it's sports.
Cars.
Yeah, and they'll know not just that fact, but the history.
True.
Like the first car ever was, or the first plane ever was. And if it's a war, they'll tell you in detail. It was General so-and-so who fought. So I'm like, wow, when these guys like something, they
go all in.
Yes, and it's not for an exam, it's because they're passionate about it, whether it's a gadget, whether it's... So borrowing on that, now because my first is a boy, he was, at that point, I think we watched a scene of the moon. So we just watched YouTube videos and borrowed books on space travel. And suddenly my mind was full of the first man on the moon. The first dog to go in space was called Laika. So it's a random piece of information. Yeah, it was a Russian dog.
Yeah.
That
Russian dog.
Yes.
Russian.
I know.
From Russia.
Yeah, from Russia.
Anyway,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
And so in that process, then we were learning what makes a spaceship go up, gravity, planets, and this was all before he could read.
What?
Because it was just fun information.
Yeah.
And he'd ask me to read, he'd point out random things. So now the point of picking curriculums, I went back to my 844-ness.
Okay.
Because it's like, now we need to study.
Yes.
Now we need to start school. So I went by my natural instinct, and I picked a box curriculum. So a box curriculum is one that tells you this is the subjects you need to learn, and this is how you'd start your day.
Okay.
And so this was ACE. It's an amazing curriculum.
That's accelerated
Christian education. Yes, and there are a lot of schools that use it, but there's also I think for now the largest part of homeschoolers use accelerated Christian education. That's because it enables you to keep track of the progress of the child. And so here I am with this boy who's learned space travel and world history, and I'm making him sit down so that we can say A for ant, armadillo, apple.
It's taking it back.
Completely.
Yeah.
But for me, I was so happy at the end of the day, we've ticked.
He has said Amadilo.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and we've sung the A song, and I remember once I now told Declan in the evening, I'm like, hey, this guy is, he's going through his pace so quickly. And then he added a different angle. He's like, I think because he's not being challenged. It's
Wow.
like, wow, okay.
That's a nice slap to get.
Kabisa. I'm like, I hadn't thought about it.
True.
And then I had lost the joy of learning, and now I was so fixated on
Going through the
ticking. So I had to step aside and look, and I sold my
your books.
I sold my books.
Okay.
And
That was the 844 books.
Yes,
Okay.
844 and the ACE books.
books,
Again, I got rid of them, and I said, okay. He likes cars, so let's infuse our learning with cars, and I will use cars to learn numbers. I'll use cars to learn reading, and then I discovered that that's a style of homeschooling called unschooling and eclectic. Unschooling and eclectic.
Okay.
And what an unschooler does is you just go with the flow.
Okay.
If we're reading a book, for example, and this book is based in Uganda, we'll infuse ourselves with everything about Uganda. The history, the people, the weather, and in there you've done your geography, your history, your math, your languages, and that you've learned. Which I feel, again, is a lot how the male brain
works.
Yeah, it's put together. Like once you immerse a dude in something he's interested in, now the problem is trying to stop him because he just wants to drink. So it helped that Tando, my son, was my first put together that way. So we're still learning. I'm still learning how to teach him.
Okay.
And so I'd say in terms of resources, that's how we do it.
How you do it. Okay. So you don't really focus on one curriculum. You just take a little bit of everything that you come across.
Yes. So in that space, we've come across a resource called Classical Conversations.
Okay.
And it's based on the classical approach to learning. The classical approach to learning goes based on how the brain is put together. In between the ages of 4 to 12, kids just ask, and they're sponges and they drink. So we feed them information.
Okay.
Then now between 12 and 13 years, we equip them on how to question. Because whether they like it or not, a teenage kid will ask questions.
Yeah.
So you equip them on how to debate, how to argue, how to differentiate between fact and myth. And so I like that. I call it a skeleton. So we use it as a framework. And within that framework, within a school year, we'll immerse ourselves in a period in history, whether it's ancient, Middle Ages, or modern. And in that period, we'll do the geography, the history, the science, the great composers, the great artists.
Wow.
I'm learning to appreciate
like fun.
Classical music.
Yeah.
Yes. It is lots of fun for the kids. And it's for kids. Even my 3-year-old sits in and we'll open the book and read and do our song for the day. And then from there, now based on their level of interest, my 3-year-old will maybe color.
Yeah.
My 5-year-old who's learning to read, maybe we'll pick some words or we'll pick a language resource that will help her. My 6-year-old maybe may read some more about it. And then now my 9-year-old, I'll expect more. Maybe I'll expect him to write. So we're all learning the same thing, but based on their abilities.
And
Yes, I expect more from them. And then in there, then I throw a math resource, a language resource, and then when we have time, I know they'd want to do it more often, but then we'll do maybe a science experiment or art.
Yeah.
The thing I've also come to appreciate about homeschooling is a community.
Yeah, I was about to talk about about that.
Of other homeschoolers helps.
Yeah.
And
you meet, how often do you meet?
So with this first resource that we use, Classical Conversations, you have a community that is doing the same content with you over the year, and you meet once a week.
Oh, okay.
So we meet every Monday, and it's a full day, and it's so much fun because it's one mom who will teach them, then they'll do art and science, then they'll play.
Yeah. So the kids get that social, because I feel that that's been one of the concerns that a lot of people have. Like, how do children get
socialization?
Yes.
I find that question so funny.
Why?
Because I always ask guys who take their kids to school, So how did you decide this school has the right socialization? Did you look at the parents in that school? Did you look at the kids in that school?
Actually, we did.
Wow, you guys are the exception. So how did you do it? Because I find we're never intentional about socializing.
Well, have been very intentional.
Really?
Very intentional.
Wow.
But it's your story. No.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, you should have a YouTube channel where you can talk about
yeah, I should have a YouTube channel where I talk about
yes, about this. Because that's so awesome. I'd love to hear about it. Come to my show, my channel.
To be continued. Melissa, you're funny.
So,
but that's a great question. And do people usually answer?
No. I find very few people actually have thought about being intentional about socializing.
It's just something we do. We take the kids to school.
I find well-socialized kids are kids who can interact with people of all ages and from all backgrounds.
Okay.
Fellow kids will never teach you that. In fact, kids teach you to be more like a kid, which is okay, but kids need to go with you everywhere. So if you're going to work, carry them. That's how they learn. This is how a business meeting is conducted.
Yeah.
We've been intentional in involving them when we're buying a car, when we're house hunting, when we're disappointed, when we're job hunting.
So they know what life is about.
Yes. Yeah. When we're in the market, so they know here we speak Kiswahili because this is a language here.
Yeah.
Here, so
that's important because someone asked me that question as well just last week. Because most homeschoolers use American curriculums, the child grows up knowing only about dollars and American presidents and information that's not relevant to
our context.
Our context.
Yep.
So you're basically saying even as you need to be deliberate as a parent to ensure they adapt to their environment, no matter what they are studying. Which actually applies even to 844.
It does.
To both. Yeah,
it does. But that I like that question because like the resource we use classical conversations, it's very American.
Okay.
And so when we started, now we realized with fellow Kenyan parents, because the kids started asking, there are no black people who did great things. There are no black composers.
And then your mind is like...
Yeah, and now they suddenly want to go. Their aspiration is to go live in America because that's where great things are happening.
That's
and so
problem.
It really is, but it's a good opportunity for us because it's forced us now to use the approach, and we're now developing African content.
There you go.
So we've developed history sentences from... I think our history starts from migration, the great, what was it called? Yeah, the Bantus, the Nilotes, the Kushites.
I struggled for a second there trying to answer that question. I'm like, guy, what did we learn? There's no exam, so I don't know. Yeah, at least I remember Bantus.
Yes, and Nilotes and the ancient kingdoms, the Songhai and the Kush. So starting from there, all the way to how they arrived in Kenya and the tribe groups, and we've gone all the way till the promulgation of the Constitution and the, what was it called? The annulment of the... It was the annulment.
Annulment. That's a good... Do I know? Gosh.
What was it called?
That's a good question.
Anyway.
George, what was it called? Okay.
When the president... When we had to have a second election.
What is that process called?
It was a term.
Re-election.
Yes. The re-election.
Mommy brain. Gosh, it's a thing.
Yeah, but
went blank.
It's forced us. Now the next stage we're at is collecting African writers, classical writers, Chinua Achebe and all this, and teaching them to explore African literature.
Fun. Can I come?
Yeah, in fact, we need as much. Can I say content? Because then they're learning great composers as Handel, and which is great. But imagine we also have great African composers, and we have great African artists. So it's been a great opportunity to show them that as Africans they have such an heritage and such depth, but it's meant that we also need to research our own,
ourselves.
Heritage and heritage and present it in a fun way for them.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's given me homework for myself, because in order for us to teach, we also have to know our story. Because that means, like you're saying, you've had to do research and go back and learn so that you can teach. And there was this other question I remember. So what happens after
they go through their paces and then they want to join university or college.
Okay.
Yeah.